Hi, I'm Rick, Director at 8 Financial Planning. In today's video, I'm going to share my 5-point pension checklist. So let me start by giving you some background. I work alongside business owners, and during the course of my work, I'm often approached by them to say, look, I have this existing pension. So these pensions could have been picked up during a previous life whilst they were employed. It could have been something they simply set up online because they felt they needed to do something, or it could have been set up by a previous financial advisor. So I'm often asked, should we keep this? Should we change it? Or should we just essentially bin it off and transfer the funds out? So in today's video, I'm going to share my actual checklist on how I approach this. And the point of sharing this is to allow you to be able to look objectively at your existing pensions to understand, are they fit for purpose? So let's get into it. The first area I tend to find myself drawn to is understanding how is the existing pension invested. Now, it would be easy to start to geek out on set allocations and Sharpe ratios, but let's just put all that aside and let's just understand what an ideal setup would actually look like from an investment strategy. And that would be one that is focused on equities, mainly invested in shares, also one that is really well diversified. So these shares aren't concentrated on individual companies or individual geographies. A really well globally diversified approach would be ideal. Now, the kind of areas to avoid, the red flags when I'm actually reviewing an investment strategy is one that is overly complex, where, I don't know, there's multiple fund managers involved, ones where they factor in kind of previous investment fads. Maybe there's some exposure to gold or something like that. Also, ones where they have no kind of single cohesive approach. They're just a mix of different strategies and funds and fund managers. So what we want ideally is simple, effective investment management. The second area I'm often drawn to is understanding the charges. Now, it's important to say there are often multiple layers of charges, from the investment management charges to the platform charges, the financial advisor charges. And so understanding what those charges are and whether they represent good value is really important. So I'll throw up a graphic that will show you the difference in what would happen if you had overall charges set at 1% and overall charges set at 2%. And you'll see straight away, it makes a massive difference. So it's not about getting to the lowest possible charging. It's about understanding, do the current charges represent good value? I think the graphic will speak for itself here. The third area I'm interested in understanding is the flexibility around that pension. So to break this down, I mean flexibility when it comes to taking benefits in future. So we live in a world of pension freedoms now. These have been around for about 10 years, but there are still old historic pensions that have never adapted to this. So ideally, we want a pension that offers something called flexi access drawdown. And what that allows you to do is draw your pension in the most flexible, effective way. What we're looking for is ensuring that whether you're taking pension benefits or these are pension benefits on death, that there is all the flexibility available so that we can put in place the most effective strategy to draw money out. The other really important part for business owners is understanding, is there flexibility on how you make your contributions? So what we'd ideally want is a pension that allows you to make personal contributions, employer contributions through your limited company, or even third-party contributions. That would be ideal. And again, it's important to say lots of pensions don't offer this, and that's a real disadvantage. The fourth area I'm really interested in is understanding who is nominated as a beneficiary. Now, let's just break that down. There's often this understanding that a pension on death will simply follow the course of a will. That's untrue. A pension works in a way that isn't connected to a will, and instead will require you to nominate a beneficiary, somebody to receive this pension if you were to pass away. And so I've seen countless examples of where there is no beneficiary nominated, or whether there's an incorrect beneficiary nominated, for example, a previous spouse. It's critical that the right beneficiary is nominated and that's kept up to date. So I'm often looking at this to understand, do we need to make changes here? So it's important you keep that up to date. So the fifth area I'm looking for is probably the most important. And this is all about having a plan that sits behind your pension. So I'm going to make a bit of a big statement and say, I'd much rather a pension that has a higher level of charging. I'd much rather a pension that doesn't invest in an ideal way. The chances of success with those two factors are far higher than if you just had no plan. So plan is critical, and this is what sits behind a pension. So what I mean by a plan is having complete clarity on what your pension's going to provide, when, and how it fits with your other arrangements. So within my firm, we use pretty complicated software that answer these questions. And to be able to show clients, well, if we want, for example, £5,000 a month as an income from the age of 60, this is what we'd need to pay into your pension every month, every year, to build it up to a fund that will make that income happen. Now, if you don't have that, then essentially you're working blind. And so a lot of my time is spent building these financial plans and making sure clients are on track to be able to see that plan through. So that fifth area, having a plan that sits behind your pension, is the most critical. And on a personal level, what it does is when you've got a plan, you've got a strategy around how much to contribute, what your pension is going to build up to, what income it's going to provide, it suddenly has so much more meaning. And so it means that every time you're making a contribution, you know what impact it's going to have. So you're far more likely to continue making that contribution. And then it can get really exciting, because when we start putting even more into your pension, we start being able to then spend more, to be able to take that pension age from 60 to 57. So having a plan is the most important part. Okay, so that's my 5-point plan. I hope you found that useful. I hope it's given you something to think about. And this is what I'm all about, just being able to guide and give you ideas so that you can make your pension really effective. And it's not about the pension. Although I've focused on things like charges and the investment strategy, it's about financial independence. It's all about quality of life. So the pension itself can be pretty boring. It's what it allows you to do that is really exciting. And so these 5 points will really help you to maximize that. So I'm Rick, Director at 8 Financial Planning. I hope that's been useful.